Alrighty, folks, we cashed in on 6 winning tickets on my premium page on Thursday. We had St. Bonaventure in college basketball, Oregon, St. Louis, East Carolina, Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA. We also hit on a 2-team parlay. And the only way you could have accessed all those winners is to join my full access, all-inclusive Gold Club package. Gold Club members get access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. Before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick timeout and welcome you to my free pick video here today for Friday, March 14th, 2025. Happy Friday to you. Congratulations, you made it. It is Pie Day. Is it St. Patty's Day today? Or is that Monday? I don't know. Have no clue. Really don't give a shit about drinking, so I don't care. My addiction right now is handicapping college basketball games. That is what I am into. But anyway, folks, if you're joining me for the first time here today, my name is Brock Page. I've been dishing out free sports picks on YouTube since 2016. Once again, happy Friday to you. The weekend's finally here. Got a lot of basketball action on the weekend, so certainly should be a fun one, especially if we win games, yeah, of course. But anyway, what am I trying to say here? I'm going off track. Yeah, listen, if you're on the fence about signing up for a membership on my premium page, I do have plenty of free content there for you to, take a look at. You don't have to pay for anything to, take a look at the free content, watch the free content. And a part of my free content on the premium page, it's my current overall win-loss record. You can check that out right now. It's in the post section. Don't have to pay to look at my record. Overall record for my entire sports betting career on the site. Every single package. Overall, a lot of good stuff there. I currently have over 2,200 members who are signed up and active on my premium page right now. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. For some reason, the big screen behind me hasn't updated college basketball yet for Friday. So many games, fast pace. I guess it can't update it quick enough. But we're going to take a look at St. Bonaventure taking on Virginia Commonwealth. That'll be a 11:30 a.m. Eastern tip. VCU's minus 10.5. Totals 133 and a hook. The Rams saw unders in 4 out of their last 6. Unders against the likes of Duquesne, Davidson, and George Mason. When it comes to defensive play, VCU limits opposing teams to just 39% from the field. Now, St. Bonaventure games on the other side went 6-3 to the under in their last 9. They're giving up only 64 points a game for the year themselves. I like the under 133.5. All right, next contest, Oregon taking on Michigan State. That's going to be a 12 o'clock Eastern tip. Michigan State is minus 5.5. Totals 143 and a hook. The Spartans are in the top 20 in the nation in defensive field goal percentage. Unders in 6 out of their last 7. No real shock there. Meanwhile, Oregon went 6-1 to the under in their last 7 themselves, holding their competition to just 31% from 3 land as well. I like the under 143.5. Next game, Ole Miss, Auburn, 1 o'clock Eastern tip. Auburn's minus 11.5. Totals 154 and a hook. The Tigers are 27-4 on the year, 800 win percentage in their travels. Now, the Tigers rarely turn the ball over on offense, averaging over 85 points a game. Johni Broome scoring over 18.5 points per contest, double-digit rebounds a night. And Miles Kelly shoots 40% from downtown, double-digit points a game for him. And they're facing an Ole Miss squad who failed to cover in 8 out of their last 9. Failures to cover against the likes of Oklahoma, Mississippi State, and South Carolina. When it comes to defensive play, the Rebels have certainly struggled putting players to the line. They're currently 306th in free throws allowed. And there's a good chance Johni Broome can get double-digit boards in this one for Auburn because Ole Miss is currently 308th in defensive boards per game. Now, Ole Miss last 5 straight outings did get over the total, 8-2 to the over in their last 10. And oddly enough, Auburn games went 8-2 to the over in their last 10 themselves. Certainly plenty of overs between both of these programs. I like Auburn minus 11.5, over 154 and a hook. Next contest, Wichita State taking on Memphis, 1 o'clock Eastern tip. Memphis is 9.5, totals 148. The Tigers are 26-5 on the year, 10-2 straight up away from home. Wichita 19-13 themselves, losing record against the point spread. The Shockers also have a losing record away from home themselves, little threat shooting the long ball. Shockers are in the bottom 5 in three-pointers made per game. And they're facing a Memphis team who limits their opponents to just 42% from the field. The Tigers also got the W in 9 out of their last 10. 84 points a game they averaged during that span. PJ Haggerty scores 21 points a game, 41% from downtown. And Dane Danger, he's averaging 13 points per contest himself, 7 rebounds, 61% from the field. Now, Memphis games went 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Wichita games saw overs with North Texas, Tulane, and this very Memphis team. That head-to-head contest saw 163 total points. I like Memphis minus 9.5, over 148. Next contest, Grambling, Alabama State, 2 o'clock East. Bama State's minus 3, totals 128.5. Now the Hornets are just 6-10 away from home this year, losing record against the point spread. They've also had their issues this season shooting from the field. Bama State's in the bottom 20 in offensive field goal percentage. And that's great news for Grambling bettors because the Tigers have been tough on defense. Grambling gives up only 67 points per contest, 41% from the field. Now, the Tigers also hold their competition to just 6 made 3 balls a game. Really the strength of this Grambling program this year, their defensive effort. Now, Grambling contests went 60% to the under in their last 10. Alabama State, 7-3 to the under in their last 10 themselves. I like Grambling plus 3, under 128.5. Next game, St. Louis, Loyola, Chicago, 2 o'clock East. Loyola's minus 2, totals 142.5. Now, the Ramblers give up only 69 points a game. Unders recently with UMass, George Washington, and Duquesne. Meanwhile, St. Louis rarely sends shooters to the foul line. 41% defensive field goal percentage. Now, the Billikens saw unders recently with Dayton, Davidson, and Rhode Island. I like the under 142.5. Next matchup, Wisconsin, UCLA, 2:30 p.m. East. Wisconsin's minus 1, totals 141. The Badgers average over 80 points a game, best free throw shooting school in the country. John Tonje scores over 18.5 points per contest, 91% from the foul line. And John Blackwell averages over 15.5 points a game for him, 81% from the stripe. The Badgers saw overs in 4 out of their last 7, throwing out that Northwestern game. Meanwhile, UCLA went 4-3 to the over in their last 7 themselves. Nice job shooting from the field. Tyler Bilodeau scores 14 points a game, 41% from three-land. And Eric Daly Jr. averages 12 points per contest himself, 41% from long range. We certainly have 2 teams who can get to the basket. Should be a good one. I like the over 141. Next contest, Texas taking on Tennessee, 3:30 p.m. East. Tennessee's minus 10, totals 135.5. Now, the Vols have a losing record against the number, failed to cover in their last 4 straight. And no real surprise here, folks. The Vols also failed to cover in 6 out of their last 7. Failures to cover against the likes of South Carolina, LSU, and Vanderbilt. And they're taking on a Texas team who's starting to heat up a bit here at the end of the year. Winners of 3 out of their last 4, 87 points a game they averaged in those victories. Trey Johnson scores 20 points a game, nearly 40% from beyond the arc. And Arthur Kaluma gets a dozen points a game himself, 7.8 boards a night. Now, out of the Longhorns' last 10 outings, the over cashed in all of those contests except for one. Meanwhile, Tennessee saw overs recently with South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. I like Texas plus 10, over 135.5. All right, next game, Florida Atlantic taking on Tulane, 3:30 p.m. East. FAU's -3, totals 149. Now, the Owls are 18-14 on the year, losing record away from home. Meanwhile, Tulane on the other side, 18-13 themselves, winners of 7 out of their last 10. And I'll tell you what, the Green Wave's been incredibly tough on the defensive end of the floor. They're 36th in the country in blocks, 33rd in defensive field goal percentage. And they're facing an FAU squad who's really had difficulties covering the point spread recently. They went just 2-7 ATS in their last 9, shooting only 69% from the line this year. Now, 6 out of the Owls' last 7 did stay under the number. Tulane with unders recently against UAB, East Carolina, and Texas San Antonio. I like Tulane +3, under 149. All right, next contest, George Washington taking on George Mason, 5 o'clock Eastern tip-off. George Mason's -2, totals 128. The Patriots are 24-7 on the year, incredibly tough on defense. As a matter of fact, they're limiting their competition to just 37% from the field. That's second best in the NCAA behind Houston. And no real surprise here, George Mason's allowing only 63 points a game. And they're facing a GW squad who's struggling getting shots off. And what I mean by that is this. George Washington is in the bottom 25 in blocked shots per game on offense. And when it comes to the long ball, the Revolutionaries are currently 320th in offensive three-point percentage. I like George Mason -2, under 128. Next contest, Toledo, Akron, 5 o'clock Eastern tip. Akron's 8.5, total 166. The Zips are 26-6 on the year, winners of 9 out of their last 10. When it comes to offensive production, Akron's certainly they're doing a nice job getting to the cup. Akron's a top 10 point producing school. Nate Johnson averages 13.5 points per contest. Tavari Johnson with a dozen points a game himself, 90% from the foul line. And they're facing a Toledo squad who allows 80 points a game themselves, bottom 10 in guarding the 3-ball. And no real surprise here, folks. The Rockets are currently allowing the 6th most field goals per game in the entire country. This is not a great recipe here for Toledo. I think that's why we're seeing such a high number on the total, and I think it's going to get over. Toledo saw their last 5 straight get over the total. Akron with overs in 6 out of their last 10. I like the Zips -8.5, over 166. Next game, Illinois, Maryland, 6:30 p.m. East. Maryland's -1.5, totals 159 and a hook. And both schools with a handful of guys who can get to the rim. 6'10" Derek Queen, he's averaging over 15.5 points a game for the Terps, 52% from the field. And Jacoby Gillespie scores over 14.5 points a night himself, 41% from downtown. Now, for Illinois on the other side of things, well, their top 5 scorers are all averaging double-digit points a game. Kasparas Jakusonis scores 15 points per contest, 5 boards, 4 assists. And Tom Ivisic averages a dozen points a game himself, 50% from the field. This is another one, should be a fun one. I like the over 159. Next matchup, another good one, Marquette, St. John's, 6:30 p.m. East. And there's an interesting wrinkle in this game I want you to pay attention to in just a moment. St. John's is -4 in this one, totals 141. Now, the Johnnies are 28-4 on the year, 18-0 at home. And if you're wondering why I'm throwing out a home record in a conference tournament, well, The Big East tournament is being held at Madison Square Garden in New York. St. John's typically plays a handful of their home games at MSG, not too far away from the Carnesecca Arena. Now, Marquette on the other side, 23-9 themselves, but they do have a losing record against the point spread this year, having some struggles covering the number, and especially recently, the Golden Eagles failed to cover in their last 3 straight, just 3-7 against the spread in their last 10. The Golden Eagles are making just 32% of their three-pointers, having a tough time getting to the line. Marquette's 303rd in free throws made per game. And they're facing a St. John's team who's 9th in blocks, 11th in defensive turnovers. The Red Storm limits opposing teams to only 66 points per contest, 40% shooting from the field. Now, Johnny's games went 4-2 to the under in their last 6. Marquette with unders in 6 out of their last 10. I like St. John's -4, under 141. Next game, BYU, Houston, 7 o'clock East. The Cougars, well, they're both Cougars. This is the cat fight, Cougar Fest. Houston's -7.5, totals 135. Houston's 28-4 on the year. BYU 24-8 themselves. And of course, more recently, BYU, they're on a 9-game winning streak. Really red hot right now. Covered the number in all of those contests except for one. And during that span, well, Brigham Young averaged over 86 points a game on offense. And as tough as Houston's been on defense, well, it's actually BYU who's 15th in the country in defensive boards per game. And they're facing a Houston team who, listen, they're great. I said it the other day. This might be my favorite to win it all. I know that sounds crazy, but this is a tough team to play against. That defensive effort is solid. But we are looking at a Houston team who has not been great against the number recently. As a matter of fact, Houston failed to cover in their last 4 straight, having a tough time getting to the foul line. Houston's currently 304th in free throws made per game. Now, 5 out of Houston's last 8 did stay under the total. Unders against the likes of Baylor, Kansas, and Texas Tech. I like BYU plus 7.5, under 135. Next matchup, little rivalry game here, and there's another wrinkle in this one you're going to want to pay attention to. Talk about UNC taking on Duke, 7 o'clock East. Duke's -7.5, totals 155. Probably going to see that line move. That line might have moved by the time you watch this video. But once again, Duke, -7.5, totals 155. Duke's 29-3 on the year. UNC 22-12 themselves, really coming on strong after a kind of a sloppy first half of the season. Now, more recently, the Tar Heels are really hitting their stride. Winners of 8 out of their last 9. Top 25 point scoring team. RJ Davis averages 17 points a game, 88% from the line. And Ian Jackson scores 13 points per contest himself, 40% from outside the arc. And listen, there's nothing to nitpick about when it comes to Duke. I'm not going to come on here and smash these guys because I have no grounds to do it. This team is great, but I'm not optimistic about Cooper Flagg's status for tomorrow. Pretty tough ankle injury on Wednesday. I'd say rest him up and get him ready for the tourney. I don't think there's any sense in putting him out there when you have a legit shot at winning the whole thing. So he's doubtful. I don't think we're going to see him suit up. If he can go, probably I don't know. Coach has to intervene and just say, hey, sit this one out. But I don't think we're going to see him suit up. That's why I think we're going to see some line movement here. Total-wise, Duke games went 8-2 to the over in their last 10. UNC 7-3 to the over in their last 10 themselves. I like North Carolina plus 7.5, over 155. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our next and final college basketball breakdown for the video. But don't change that dial. We got NBA and some NHL action coming up. Boise State taking on New Mexico, 9:30 p.m. East. New Mexico's -1, totals 149. Now the Lobos are 26-6 on the year, winning record away from home. New Mexico is also on a 4-game winning streak, 8-2 straight up in their last 10. The Lobos average over 81.5 points a game, top 20 in field goals. Donovan Dent scores 20 points a game, 50% from the field. And Nelly Jr. Joseph scores over 13.5 points a game himself. Third in the nation in rebounds per game. The 6'10 Nigerian averages over 11 boards per contest. I believe it's 11.1 rebounds per game. And they're facing a Boise team who definitely struggles from downtown. The Broncos are making just 31% of their 3 balls on offense. When it comes to the total, both schools saw unders in 7 out of their last 10. I like New Mexico -1, under 149. All right, let's go ahead and dive into some NBA action. Celtics Heat, 7 o'clock East. Boston 7.5, totals 217. The Celtics are 47-19 on the year, 24-7 on the road. Miami 7 games below 500 themselves, losing record at home. And out of the Heat's last 10 meetings with Boston, they actually took the loss in all of those games besides one. It's been utterly one-sided. So if you're into historical trends, it's been all Boston. Now, Miami's currently 25th in points per game this year, bottom 10 in offensive boards. When it comes to getting to the foul line, the Heat's currently in the bottom 5 in free throw attempts per game, struggling getting to the stripe. And they're facing a Boston club who sends fewer shooters to the stripe than any other team. When it comes to guarding the field goal, well, Boston has the lowest defensive field goal percentage in the Eastern Conference. Now, total-wise, both teams saw unders in 6 out of their last 10, respectively. I like Boston -7.5, under 217. Next game, Pacers, Sixers, 7 o'clock Eastern tip. Indiana's -11, totals 232.5. Indiana, 8 games over 500. Philadelphia just 22-43. And more recently, the Sixers took the loss in 8 out of their last 10. They're currently dead last in defensive field goal percentage. No effort. And that's certainly good news for Indy fans because the Pacers are a top 3 field goal shooting team. Pascal Siakam averages over 20.5 points per contest, 40% from long range. And Tyrese Halliburton gets 18.5 points a game himself, 86% from the line. Now, total-wise, the over cashed in 8 out of these teams' last 9 head-to-head gatherings. So once again, if you're into historical trends, plenty of overs to go around. Now, as far as this year's concerned, Philadelphia games went 7-2 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I like the Pacers -11, over 232.5. Next game, Clippers-Hawks, 7:30 Eastern tip. The LA Clippers are -3, totals 232. Clipper games. Well, the Clippers are 6 games over 500. Atlanta just 32-34 on the season. And when it comes to defensive play, the Hawks allow just about 120 points a game for the entire year. That is a sloppy body of work. Bottom 3 in defensive field goal percentage. And they're facing a Clipper squad who got the W in 4 out of their last 5. They looked pretty good offensively for the most part during that span. James Harden averages 22 points a game, 5 boards, 8 assists. Ivica Zubac snags 12.5 rebounds a game, 62% from the field. Now, total-wise, both teams with overs in 6 out of their last 9. I like the Clippers -3, over 232. All right, next game, Mavericks-Rockets, 8 o'clock East. Houston's -11.5, totals 224. Houston's 16 games over 500, but they've certainly had their issues on offense. As a matter of fact, the Rockets are currently the worst free throw shooting team in the league. They're actually in the bottom 5 in the NBA in 3 balls per game. Now, the Rockets are making just a dozen three-pointers per contest, and they're facing a Dallas club who's still in the top 5 in blocks despite their recent issues. When it comes to shooting the 3 ball, they're limiting their opponents to only a dozen made 3 balls a game. Now, 5 out of the Mavs' last 9 did stay under the line, throwing out that Milwaukee contest. Meanwhile, Houston games went 7-2 to the under in their last 9. I like Dallas plus 11.5, under 224. All right, next game. Cavs, Grizzlies, 8 o'clock Eastern tip. Cleveland's -2, totals 245. And I'll tell you, this should be a really fun game to watch. Both teams with powerful offensive production. The Cavs lead the NBA in points per game, first in shooting the 3 ball. Darius Garland makes 41% of his deep balls, 21 points a game. And DeAndre Hunter, he's making 50% of his three-pointers with the Cavs, 14 points a game for him. And they're facing a Memphis squad on the other side who saw overs themselves against Atlanta, San Antonio, and this very Cleveland squad. The Grizzlies are currently the highest point-producing team in the Western Conference, leads the entire league in free throws made per game. John Morant scores over 21.5 points a night, 4 boards, 7.5 assists. And Luke Kennard's drilling 46% of his attempts from outside the perimeter. Like I said, should be a fun one. Can't give you a freebie, at least on the side, but I can't give you a freebie on the total. I think it's going over. Give me the over 245. Next matchup, Hornets Spurs, 8 o'clock East. San Antonio's -4, totals 230. San Antonio, 10 games under 500, losing record against the point spread. And more recently, the Spurs took the loss in 8 out of their last 10. Failed to cover the point spread in all of those contests except for 3. Becomes offensive production. The Spurs do not shoot it well from 3 land. They struggle getting to the line. They're actually 25th in free throws made per game. And they're facing a Hornets team who's definitely going to challenge you on defense. Charlotte's in the top 10 in fewest field goals allowed. They're also 3rd in defensive three-point percentage. As a team, the Hornets covered the point spread in 3 out of their last 4. Covers against Miami, Brooklyn, and Cleveland. Meanwhile, Charlotte games went 8-2 to the under in their last 10. San Antonio with unders recently versus the Rockets and Pelicans. I like Charlotte +4, under 230. I reluctantly take Charlotte +4, under 230. All right, next game, Magic T-Wolves, 8 o'clock East. Minnesota's -10.5, totals 208 and a hook. The T-Wolves are 9 games over 500, winning record at home. Meanwhile, Orlando's 5 games under 500 themselves, 13-20 on the road. More recently, Orlando dropped 7 out of their last 10. They're currently dead last in points per game. The Magic's averaging only 104 points per contest, dead last in shooting the 3 ball. As a matter of fact, Orlando's averaging only 10 made 3-pointers a game. And they're facing a Minnesota squad who's tough to score against themselves. They're 6th in points allowed, 3rd in 3 balls given up. The Red Hot T-Wolves are also on a 6-game winning streak. They scored a bunch of points during that time frame. They're averaging 122 points a game. Anthony Edwards, 27 points per contest, 40% from beyond the arc. Julius Randle, 18 points a night, actually over 18.5 points a night himself. 7 rebounds, handful of assists for Randle. Minnesota games went 60% to the over in their last 10. Orlando with overs against Milwaukee, Chicago, and Golden State. I like the Timberwolves -10.5, over 208 and a hook. Next game, Lakers Nuggets, 9:30 p.m. East. Denver's 12.5, totals 233. Denver's 18 games over 500, 22-10 at home. Meanwhile, the Lakers just 15-17 on the road, losers of their last 3 straight, really feeling the impact without LeBron healthy. The Lakers are also averaging only a dozen made three balls a game, 25th in offensive boards. A lot, they won a lot of games this year, but there are some areas of concern with these guys, especially with LeBron not in the game. Of course, the Lakers are facing a Denver team who makes more field goals a game than any other squad in the league. They're making nearly 51% of their attempts from the field. Nikola Jokic averages 29 points per contest, a dozen boards, 10 assists. The Joker's also making 42% of his attempts from outside the arc. Michael Porter Jr. scores 18 points a game himself, 40% from three land as well. Denver saw overs recently with OKC, Phoenix, and Detroit. Meanwhile, the Lakers with overs in 3 out of their last 5. I like the Nuggets minus 12.5, over 233. Next game, Raptors Jazz, 9:30 p.m. East. Utah's minus 1.5, totals 230 and a hook. The Jazz are 15-51 on the year, 8-24 at home. They were also on a 7-game skid, and they gave up 124 points a game on average during that span. Utah allows more three-pointers a game than any other franchise, dead last in defensive turnovers. They're taking on a Toronto team who got the W in 5 out of their last 6. Pretty tough on defense during that stretch. The Raptors allowed just 106 points a game in those victories. Now, total-wise, both teams with overs in 4 out of their last 7, respectively. I like Toronto plus 1.5, over 230 and a hook. All right, next and final breakdown in the NBA. Kings, Suns, 10 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Phoenix is minus 2.5, totals 234 and a hook. The Suns are 6 games under 500, 37% against the point spread. Now, the Suns get fewer turnovers on defense than any other team in the league other than Utah. They're also 25th in 3 balls allowed. They're taking on a Sacramento team who covers in 7 out of their Sacramento covered in 7 out of their last 8. Covers against the likes of the Clippers, Nuggets, and Rockets. And on the offensive end, the Kings, they rarely turn the ball over. Second in shooting from the stripe. DeMar DeRozan, 22 points a game, 4 boards, 4 assists. Malik Monk, 17.5 points per contest himself. 5 out of Sacramento's last 9 did get over the total, throwing out that Denver game. Phoenix contest went 6-3 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I like the Kings plus 2.5, over 234 and a hook. And with that, we're going to jump into some NHL action. Oilers, Islanders, 7:30 p.m. East. Edmonton's $1.35, total 6. Calvin Pickard expected in the net for the Oilers. Ilya Sorokin for New York. And even though Sorokin gives these guys legitimate chances to win games, the Owls just haven't been good enough offensively. They're in the bottom 10 in goals per game. Tough time scoring against Edmonton in recent meetings. The Oilers held New York to just 2.6 goals a game in their last 10 gatherings. Once again, into historical trends. Certainly want to think about that one there. And listen, I hope Pickard eats his Wheaties, because there's a very good chance he's going to be challenged often Friday evening. The Oilers get more pucks on net a game than any other team in the NHL. Leon Draisaitl leads the league in goals, second in points. Connor McDavid, 4th in the league in assists and points himself. And even if for some reason the Oilers do struggle on offense, they've gotten really good production out of their backup, Pickard. He's 15-7 with a .276 goals against average. I'm sorry, I said earlier I hope Pickard eats his Wheaties. I meant Sorokin. Really hope Sorokin eats his Wheaties, because Edmonton puts a lot of pucks on net. Sorry, I just realized I misspoke there. But yeah, Pickard, great job for Edmonton. Once again, 15-7 on the year, .276 goals against average. Oiler games did go 60% to the over in their last 10. That's not overly shocking when you're getting 1 million pucks on net a game. New York saw 3 out of their last 4 get over the total themselves. 3 out of their last 4 in their own barn, that is. I like Edmonton minus $1.35 over 6. All right, next game should be a good one. If you're a hockey fan, this is a game you're going to want to pay attention to. This should be a great matchup. Stars, Jets, 8 o'clock Eastern puck drop. Winnipeg's minus $1.30, totals 5.5. Connor Hellebuck for the Jets, Jake Ottinger for Dallas. And both clubs with a handful of scorers on both sides of the ice. Kyle Connor's 5th in the league in goals and points. Mark Scheifele, 3rd in the league in goals himself. Meanwhile, on the other side for Dallas, Jason Robertson, 28 goals on the year, 66 points. And Matt Duchene, 41 assists, 66 points for him. Stars games went 9-1 to the over in their last 10. 5-1 to the over in their last 6 on the road. I like the over 5.5. All right, next matchup, Predators, Ducks, 10 o'clock Eastern puck drop. Nashville's $1.35, total 6. UC Saros for the Preds, Lucas Dostal for Anaheim. And believe it or not, Dosty's got a winning record in the crease this year. .910 save percentage, goals against average in the twos. Dostal's having a solid year for a not-so-solid team. And they're facing a Nashville squad who's been terrible away from home this year. Out of 32 contests away from Nashville, the Preds got the W only 8 times. That is it. And when it comes to offensive production, well, the Preds are in the bottom 3 in goals per game. But it's actually not just solely issues on offense for Nashville. They do give up their fair share of goals on defense. Nashville is also in the bottom 10 in goals allowed per contest. UC Saros, just 16 and 25 in the net, save percentage in the 800s. When it comes to the total, Anaheim games went 4-1 to the over in their last 5 at home, 60% to the over in their last 10 at any location. I like the Ducks plus $1.15 over 6. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. Hockey Club Kraken, 10 o'clock Eastern start. Utah's minus $1.30, total 6. Karel Vejmelka for the Hockey Club. Joey Decord for Seattle. Now, Decord's got 22 wins in the net, goals against average of .268. And they're facing a Utah club who lost 3 out of their last 5 themselves. Bottom 10 in defensive shots on goal, allowing a lot of pucks on net. And listen, even though Vejmelka's been more than serviceable, between the pipes, he's recorded only 1 shutout in 34 starts, so he hasn't been overly dominant. Now, total-wise, Utah saw their last 4 straight on the road get over the total. Seattle, 3 straight overs at home for them. I like the Kraken plus $1.10 over 6. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. Quick pick recap. Quick pick recap. I like the under 133.5 in that St. Bonaventure, Virginia Commonwealth game. Under 143.5 in that Oregon-Michigan State matchup. Give me Auburn minus 11.5 over 154.5. Memphis minus 9.5 over 148. Grambling plus 3 under 128.5. I like the under 142.5 in that St. Louis-Loyola Chicago game. Give me the over 141 in that Wisconsin-UCLA matchup. Texas Longhorns plus 10 over 135.5. Tulane plus 3 under 149. George Mason minus 2 under 128. Akron minus 8.5 over 166. I like the over 159 in that Illinois-Maryland game. St. John's minus 4 under 141. BYU plus 7.5 under 135. North Carolina plus 7.5 over 155. New Mexico minus 1 under 149. NBA Celtics minus 7.5 under 217. Pacers minus 11 over 232.5. LA Clippers minus 3 over 232. Mavericks plus 11.5 under 224. Give me the over 245 in that Cavaliers Grizzlies game. Hornets +4, under 230. T-Wolves -10.5, over 208 and a hook. Nuggets -12.5, over 233. Raptors +1.5, over 230 and a hook. Kings +2.5, over 234.5. NHL, Oilers -135, over 6. I like the over 5.5 in that Stars Jets contest. Ducks +115, over 6. Give me Seattle +110, over 6 goals. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium page. And if you do end up getting a membership here today on my premium site, just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame, absolutely free. Going to be included with your membership. That's why I always tell folks that Gold Club package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. Gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. But most importantly, folks, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. And if you're signed up to the Gold Club, congratulations on a winning day. We had a tough day a few days ago. We stuck together. We bounced back on Thursday, got the job done. So congratulations, you deserve it. A little bit of adversity earlier in the week. Now we're back on track, ready to roll into the weekend. I'm very confident in Friday's plays. So definitely looking forward to later today. But anyway, folks, once again, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. With that said, folks, happy Friday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium page.